Hey everybody, Josh from Populi. Today we're going to apply ourselves to applying tuition schedules to students. Tuition schedules allow you to automatically create pending charges on student profiles according to their enrollments. So if a student who enrolls in 9 credits is charged at a rate of $400 per credit, and students who are enrolled in 12 credits are charged at a rate of $350 per credit, the tuition schedule controls who gets charged what so that everything comes out correct. But it's a classic conundrum. In order for students to receive pending charges, they have to have a tuition schedule on their profiles.
Let's take that again. Let's not say classic conundrum. It's not a classic conundrum, really.
You don't understand. I can have you jailed.
Over disagreeing with you on the script? That's not true.
I can have you fired.
That's also not in your authority.
I can do something to your water because you can't watch it all the time.
Please don't.
There are a few methods for getting tuition schedules onto student profiles. First, you can manually apply them one by one. Second, you can manually apply them en masse. And then third, you can set up a program that automatically gives tuition schedules to students. What is this, a children's gymnastics class? Because we're talking roles. They're a little tricky today. The 2 different methods have different requirements. One at a time, manual application requires either the financial admin role or the student billing role. En masse application requires either the academic admin role or the academic auditor role in combination with either the financial admin role or the student billing role. Academic admin or academic auditor gives you access to the data slicer, and then in order to perform the action of managing tuition schedules, you'll need either the financial admin or student billing role. Gabe, I demand that you show a slide that will demonstrate the different options for the roles. Good job, Gabe. Thank you for being obedient and doing your duty exactly as you're told. Before we actually get into the first part of this process, I do want to take just a second to make a distinction between tuition schedules that are placed in 2 different spots on student profiles. We're going to look at this on a student's profile. So here on the student's profile, we'll go to the financial tab. And on the dashboard of the financial tab, if we just look down here, we can see the option for a default tuition schedule. So that's one place that a tuition schedule can exist. And then we also have a spot under by term where we can have a tuition schedule as well. Ultimately, in order to create pending charges for a given term, we have to have a tuition schedule on that by term tab. But a default tuition schedule can sit here on the dashboard, and then when a student enrolls in a course that matches a course that's listed on the tuition schedule, it will automatically load into that term and create pending charges there. So that happens automatically. You don't have to go through and add a term tuition schedule every time you want to create charges for a student. This is useful in situations where a student's tuition is locked in. So that you'll have one default tuition schedule in place that will pull in from term to term, so that whenever a student gets charges, they're getting those charges from the same tuition schedule. And with that, we're on to the first way to apply a tuition schedule to a student's profile. That's manually, one at a time. So to add a default tuition schedule, we'll go back to that student where we were before, where we saw add a default tuition schedule. We'll click there, and then we'll choose the correct tuition schedule from the list, and then click Save. Now that's in place. All we have to do is wait for that student to enroll in courses. If those courses match the courses on this tuition schedule, they'll create pending charges on the by term tab. We can also add a tuition schedule directly to the by term tab. If we go to financial by term, and then down where we were before, we can click add a tuition schedule, choose the correct tuition schedule, and then save. Now, and this will be true for both of these methods with default tuition schedules, ideally, you would have already added these schedules to a student's profile before they enroll. That way, once they enroll, the charges will be generated automatically. If that didn't happen, you have to go to jail. No, actually, if that didn't happen, you are going to have to go to the student by term tab and then manually add the tuition schedule there as well. And then once you do that, it should generate the pending charges exactly as you'd expect. Let's move on to the second process, manually applying tuition schedules en masse. This will happen on the data slicer. So you'll go to academics and then into reporting, and then you'll land on the data slicer. In order to execute this action, we have to first pull up a list of students that we want to affect. That means you have to have some way of identifying these students based on data that's on their profiles. There are any number of conditions that you might use to pull up a list of students here. We're going to use that enrollments in term condition. And we're going to set that to the current term. You can select a different term if you need to. And then we'll set this to is greater than or equal to 1. And then once we have that, we could click update. We could add other conditions here. We're not going to add further conditions. You might need to if you need to get more specific about your list of students. Maybe you want to add, a freshman standing or some tag that will help you get new students here who haven't already been granted their tuition schedules. What I am going to do is click on columns, and then I'm going to add a couple of columns that will help me see particular data about each of these students and their tuition schedules. So I'm going to click the plus sign, and then I'm going to go down to my financial conditions here, and I'm going to choose default tuition schedule, and then I'm going to add another column as well. I'm going to go back down to financial, and then I'm going to choose term tuition schedule, and it's set to the correct current term, and then I'll click update. So now we can see all of the students enrolled in that term, and then we can see their default tuition schedules as well as their term tuition schedules. We can see Donna's tuition schedule, which we added just previously. Now what we'll do is click on Actions in the upper right, and we'll click Manage Tuition Schedules. And we'll just step through each of these. We want to add a tuition schedule, although we could also remove or replace tuition schedules. We want to choose the type. We're going to go ahead and add first the default tuition schedule, and we're going to do the undergraduate schedule, and then we'll save. Now that that's done, you don't immediately see that change here, but if I refresh, we can see those default tuition schedules all listed there. So now everybody has those default tuition schedules. Remember that if we add the default tuition schedule to student profiles when they're already enrolled in the term, it won't actually move that tuition schedule onto the by term tab for them, and it won't create charges. So in this situation, we're going to have to also add a term tuition schedule. It's not that big of a deal, just a couple clicks. I'm going to click on Actions, Manage Tuition Schedules again. I'm going to use Term Tuition Schedule this time. I'm going to leave it set here. We're going to choose the correct tuition schedule and then save. And then again, once we refresh, you'll see that now we have all the correct tuition schedules for all of those students. You might need to use additional conditions here to get a clean list, the students that you want to affect. But we're limited here. There's only so much we can do. We can't cover every situation. After all, I am only a man, arguably. And all joking aside, you do want to make sure that you get a good list. We are making mass changes. So you want to be careful that you're not affecting students that you don't want to affect. You want to look at things like that list of students. Some folks are familiar enough with their student body that they can tell who should have which tuition schedule. If you're not able to do that, if you're a larger school, you can at least look at your total results there. And if those results are way beyond what you would expect, that's a good indication that you need to do a little more work to refine that list. If you do end up adding tuition schedules to students that you shouldn't have added tuition schedules to, you will go to jail. Now, it's actually not that big of a deal, but it is a bit of a pain to work through exactly what happened and then undo all those changes. Now, all of those students have their default and term tuition schedules, and now you can click subscribe. And when that little notifications bell comes up, you can click that, ding, 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 to get updates whenever we post a new video to our channel here. And go ahead and click like, or you will go to jail. Check us out on social media. You'll find those links in the description below. I'm Josh for Populi. Thanks for watching.